Welcome back to Dummy Boy Finance. I'm Dummy Boy, and in this video, I want to go over HighTide stock. This is by far my favorite cannabis play. We had a major acquisition today. I want to go over the price targets that analysts have for this stock, as well as what these acquisitions mean for this company. So today, HighTide announced that they have acquired the company called Daily High Club, which is an online retailer of accessories related to cannabis in the United States. And so this article summarizes and highlights HighTide's plan to continue to expand in the US and what they have done so far. So we're going to briefly go over that right now. So you can see right here, HighTide adds another top e-commerce platform to its portfolio, which will now include 3 of the top 5 most popular e-commerce platforms for consumption accessories globally, totaling 91 million site visits in 2020, including 23 million associated with the Daily High Club alone. And so this year we have seen acquisitions of Daily High Club, Smoke Cartel, Fab CBD. Previously, we've had Grass City. Aside from all these acquisitions that they have made in the United States, HighTide continues to open up more brick and mortar retail shops here in Canada. They have a goal to get about 115 shops open by the end of the year. And at the same time, they are conquering the e-commerce platform in the United States. And why this is so bullish right now is because they are going to dominate 2 major markets that are going to be the pioneers in the legalization of MJ. And what I mean by that is this. You have a lot of companies that are in the United States, like your Planet 13s, that people are very big on, and as they should be. However, they don't have the presence in Canada like HighTide already has. And if we're looking at the United States is not even federally legalized. So the best way to conquer this market is to essentially build a foundation through the e-commerce platform, so that once the federal legalization talks start to pick up, it's going to be a smooth transfer, because they will already have a huge foundation in the e-commerce platform, where as soon as that legalization hits, they are going to be able to distribute whatever they want, and they should have no issues. And also, on top of all of that, their plan is to also open brick and mortar shops in the United States once everything gets federally legalized. And so if I'm looking at all of these companies in the MJ space, HighTide is by far my favorite. You have investors in HighTide, which consist of Afria as well as Aurora Cannabis. And so other major players are invested in HighTide, and that should already let you know that these guys are not playing around. They continue to acquire other companies that are only going to benefit not only their balance sheets, but their presence overall globally. I believe that they are conquering these 2 North American markets first, and then they will eventually make their way to Europe, Asia, and etc. And that is going to be a long-term outlook, but I know Raj Grover himself is planning to make this the biggest cannabis play in the world. And I believe that eventually we'll get there if they continue to do these strong moves. And so I just want to highlight the details of this transaction of the Daily High Club, so you guys get a better understanding of how beautiful this deal was actually executed. Right here, HighTide is going to give $6.7 million worth of share consolidation through common shares of HighTide, meaning those individuals who had Daily High Club are now going to get portions through HighTide, and it's going to be a share consolidation. And on top of that, they're also going to get 3.25 in cash. So the beautiful thing about this deal is that the majority of this transaction is through common shares, and I think that is the best way to execute a deal. Why? Because you're not actually giving up any sort of money up front. You're actually giving up portions of your business, and at the same time, that is taking more shares off the market, which then will eventually increase the share price. And usually when you have a deal structured in this manner, there's usually a time limit for how long these people and shareholders are able to hold these shares, meaning they can't just quickly sell as soon as they get hold of the shares. They have to pass a certain threshold. And so the beauty about this is more and more acquisitions are coming on board, and a lot of them are getting stakes in HighTide, which means more and more shares are going to keep getting gobbled up out of the float, meaning that the share price only can go one way. That is music to my ears as an investor in HighTide. And now that brings me to what analysts think about HighTide. I mentioned this before, I'm not too big on analyst recommendations, but it does give us a gauge and it gives us investor confidence for whether or not we should be looking forward to the stock in the short term or we should be staying away from the stock in the short term. So a simple Google search, HighTide price targets, the average price target is around $20 Canadian, and that is 100% upside from current prices. I am extremely happy to see that we have price targets that are well above current share price. I already know that this company is going to be massive in the future and they're only going to continue to grow. This is a company that is only being held back by governments right now because of the fact that it's not federally legalized. And as more and more data starts coming out on MJ use and how more adolescents are going to prefer using MJ instead of using alcohol, over time, most countries are going to start to legalize MJ, and that's just how it's going to be. And the fact that HighTide is already building their presence where they think it's going to be the most beneficial is only going to help investors and shareholders alike. And so I'm very glad to see that the price target is 100% from where we are. But I'm not going to pay too much mind here to this analyst recommendation. Again, I do believe HighTide is a buy at these levels. I believe that this company is going to be massive. It's extremely undervalued relative to its peers. Just for a simple comparison of how undervalued I believe HighTide is, Sundial Growers SNDL has a current market cap of $1.8 billion. And so compared to Sundial's $1.8 billion, HighTide trades at $403 million, more than 4x lower than Sundial, and Sundial doesn't even have a presence in Canada at all, and in the United States they don't even have the same presence as HighTide. And so I don't know what is going on with the share price, but I do know it is going to eventually catch up, and people who have been accumulating and patient with the stock like myself are eventually going to get rewarded. And so that is going to bring us to our stock chart. So right now we're looking at HighTide here on the daily time frame, but we are looking at it on the Canadian dollar, which is why we are trading at $10.30. Very nice day, up 3.83%. And if we look closer to our price action, not only are we above our 50 SMA, but we are now above a pretty crucial level of resistance that we have had trouble breaking through this entire run here on HighTide. The next level for us to break through is this $11.93. Once we break past this point, HighTide is going to start to make larger moves to the upside. We have an earnings coming up, and I'm very excited to see what that earning has. We did get information that they almost made $1 million just on 420, which should be included in this ER. So that should definitely boost up our numbers significantly, which is why I'm very excited for this specific ER. And I think that should bring us above this point. Overall, if we're looking at our MACD, we had a nice crossover here to the upside. We are getting to this positive territory, which looks extremely bullish. Our RSI still has lots of room to run, and our price action did close over a major level of resistance. So all the technical levels look absolutely bullish. The acquisitions this company is making, absolutely bullish. And on top of that, this company is grossly undervalued to its peers. I don't even want to call them peers because this company is in a whole different stratosphere than its competitors. However, its competitors are getting valued way higher than HighTide. And it's hard for me to ignore the numbers on such a beautiful deal. And when the earnings come out on Monday, I will be here to update you guys on the earnings, to break down the numbers on how bullish and how undervalued this company actually is compared to a Sundial Growers that keeps getting crazy numbers and crazy metrics. I keep saying that Sundial is not a buy. It is a great swing play to trade on momentum, but it's not a great long-term hold. If you're looking for a cannabis play for the long term, HighTide is the way to go. It's not only undervalued, but it has already built a strong presence in the United States e-commerce platforms, and it's also built a brick and mortar retail presence here in Canada, and it will only continue to expand. The structure of their deals are absolutely beautiful, which do consist of actual shares that are going to be taken off of the market. And so we haven't really seen any movement in share price, even with all of this great news. So eventually The price will catch up to all the news that we have seen. I can't tell you when that's going to happen, but it may start here on Monday. So I'm very excited to see the growth of this company. We have been seeing what's happening behind the scenes. Now it's time for the share price to match all of the hype and all the great news that we've been seeing. If you guys enjoyed this update on HighTide stock, don't forget to like this video. We are on the road to 10K subs. So if you made it to this point, feel free to hit that subscription button. This is Dummy Boy Finance. I'm Dummy Boy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.